You know the words. You've heard them 1,000 times in movies, on TV shows. You have the right to remain silent. I bet you could probably recite the whole thing right now. But what's the real story behind those words? I mean, do you know the guy it's named after? Or why this famous warning is actually on some pretty shaky ground today?
So let's pull back the curtain on this iconic phrase. We're going to get into where it came from, what it really means when you're in a tough spot, and why its whole future is being debated right now in the legal world.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 6 parts. We'll look at the world before these warnings even existed, then we'll get into the case that changed everything, we'll break down the rights themselves, figure out when they actually apply, trace the controversy that's followed them for decades, and finally, look at what's next. Okay, so to really understand why Miranda was such a game changer, you have to picture what things were like before it. We're heading back to a time when getting a confession out of someone, well, the rules were a lot murkier, and sometimes a lot more brutal. See, before 1966, the interrogation room was this place of incredible pressure. The Supreme Court was really worried about it. They used this phrase, the inherently compelling pressures of police questioning. Basically, they knew these situations were designed to wear a person down, to get them to talk even when every instinct told them to stay quiet. And this is the change in a nutshell. Before Miranda, the courts used this vague thing called the voluntariness test. A judge would just decide case by case if they thought a confession was forced. Super unpredictable. But after Miranda, everything changed. We got a clear, standard rule, a set of protections that had to be followed for everyone, every time. Now, a massive shift like this doesn't just happen out of the blue. It was kicked off by the arrest of one man, a man whose name would end up becoming famous for all the wrong reasons, Ernesto Miranda. So in 1963, police arrest this guy, Ernesto Miranda. He's 23, never made it past the 9th grade. They take him into a room and question him for 2 hours straight. No lawyer, no one told him he could stay quiet, and in the end, he signs a written confession. That confession got him convicted, but his case slowly made its way all the way to the Supreme Court, and the justices saw it as the perfect textbook example of why the system needed to change. So this all leads to the huge 1966 decision, Miranda v. Arizona. The court didn't just say, interviews are bad. No, they went a step further. They created a very specific 4-part warning to try and level the playing field inside that intimidating interrogation room. And here they are, the 4 pillars of the warning we all know today. First, you can stay quiet. Second, and this is a big one, your words aren't just conversation, they have serious consequences. Third, you get a lawyer. And fourth, you get a lawyer even if you're broke. The whole point was to make sure that if you do decide to talk, it's a choice you're making freely, with full knowledge of what you're giving up. Okay, so knowing the rights is one thing, but here's where it gets tricky. The other half of the puzzle is knowing when police actually have to tell you about them, and believe me, it is not as simple as you think. This is the key. It's like a 2-part code that has to be unlocked. Police don't have to read you your rights the second they slap handcuffs on you. The warning is only required when 2 things are happening at the same time. You have to be in custody and you have to be under interrogation. Both have to be true. So what does custody even mean? It's not just about being behind bars. The real test is this. Would a reasonable person in your shoes feel like they could just end the conversation and walk away? If the answer is no, then you are probably in custody for Miranda purposes. And interrogation? That's also way broader than you might think. Sure, it's direct questions like, did you do it? But it also includes any clever words or even actions by police that are designed to get you to confess. It's not just about asking questions, it's about trying to get a specific type of answer. And because of that 2-part rule, there are a lot of situations where police can question you without any warning at all. Think about a normal traffic stop, or when they're asking for your name and address at the station. There's also a big public safety exception. And get this, it doesn't apply if you're talking to an undercover cop who you think is just your cellmate. But here's the statistic that blows my mind. After all this famous warning designed to protect people, studies show that about 80% of suspects, that's 4 out of every 5, end up waiving their rights and talking to the police anyway. Look, the Miranda decision was controversial from day one. People freaked out, saying it would stop police from solving crimes. And because of that, for the last 50-plus years, the courts have been slowly but surely reinterpreting it, narrowing it, and basically chipping away at the original rule. You can see this incredible legal tug-of-war right here.
In '74, the court said the warnings aren't constitutional rights themselves, just protective rules. Then, in 2000, they swung back, calling Miranda a constitutional decision. But then, just recently, in 2022, they ruled that breaking the Miranda rule is not a violation of the Constitution itself. And that's a huge deal. It means you can't sue an officer just for failing to read you your rights.
And here is a wild, ironic final chapter to the story. Ernesto Miranda actually got a new trial, and they convicted him again even without his confession. But years later, after he got out, he was killed in a bar fight. And the person the police arrested for his murder? He was read his Miranda rights, he used them to stay silent, and he was eventually released.
So all of that history, all that controversy, and all those shifting court decisions, it brings us right here to today. And right now, a lot of legal experts are looking at the Miranda warning and thinking its entire foundation is on seriously shaky ground. With the Supreme Court raising all these doubts, people are starting to look for other solutions. Two big ideas are gaining steam. One is to make it mandatory to video record all police interrogations. The other is to actually pass laws that put the Miranda warnings on the books. And this idea of codification is a really big deal. The thinking is, let's take these protections out of the hands of judges, who can change their minds, and put them into a stable law passed by Congress or a state legislature. That way, the rights can't just be reinterpreted away by a future court. So that leaves us with this massive question hanging over the whole justice system. Those famous words, "you have the right to remain silent," are at a crossroads. Will lawmakers step in to protect them by turning them into actual law? Or will this iconic warning just slowly fall silent?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.